Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Crimson Crossover podcast presented by the Field of 68. I'm your host, Christian Sykes, joined as always by Charles Branch and Joey Blackwell. How you guys doing on this fine Friday afternoon?
There's never been a more beautiful podcast recording on a Friday afternoon for me than right now. Back to back Elite Eights, which I think all three of us kind of thought that was going to be the thing, but just it's still surreal to think that, if you had asked me 7 years ago that if Bama would make back to back Elite Eights, I'd say, okay, what crazy stuff do we have to do to get that? But back to back Elite Eights, potentially back to back Final Fours. I know this whole episode's gonna be us talking about Duke, but just really, really feeling good to be an Alabama fan. I think right now, from here on out, wherever you finish, whether it's we end our season on Saturday night or lose or win the national championship game, any of it, it's not a disappointing season no longer. I think we've gone past that hump, and everything after this is a bonus. But hopefully, we still have 3 wins to talk about.
I don't want to take it for granted because it is only the third time we've been to the Elite Eight. But with how this season started, all the way back in April of last year, with the roster construction and what people were saying about this team, uh, it's almost like this was expected. Um, and obviously, we've had our challenges throughout the season. So, but it's still really hard to sit here and just really let it sink in as far as being back in the Elite Eight. And I think part of that too is how incredible last night's shooting performance was from the 3-point line. That steals the headline. Last year beating North Carolina in a crazy great game, but it had been 20 years since we'd been back to the Elite Eight, and it was a surprise. Last night was not a surprise as far as getting to the Elite Eight. Maybe the shooting performance a little bit was a surprise, but I do feel like this team has been capable of a performance like that to run somebody out of the gym. Again, I don't know if a performance of 25 3-pointers and setting NCAA tournament records for threes made and threes attempted and all that was expected. But we know this team has been a good shooting team, even though they started off slowly, and now all those pieces have started to come together at the perfect time where you want to be playing your best basketball in late March, getting into early April.
Yeah, and we were kind of talking a little bit before the podcast, and it feels like this team is hitting their stride. I know we had the Robert Morris game that was a little bit of a letdown, but like St. Mary's, you handled business. You answered the call when it came to the rebounding aspect of it. BYU, they literally challenged you to hit threes. That's what their defensive game plan was we're not going to let you get into the paint. We're going to just let you tee off from three. Can you beat us hitting threes? And Alabama went 25 of 51 from three. Should have been 26 of 52 if Aiden Holloway hadn't put his foot on the line at the end of the game. Um, and Alabama answered the bell. And now you're going up against a perennial power in Duke, a true blue blood, and they have the best player in the country, in my opinion. I know there's been some debate between Janai Broome and Cooper Flagg, but I truthfully believe that Cooper Flagg is the best player in the country, will be the number one draft pick next year in the NBA draft. And not only that, Duke has a loaded team. And no one is going to pick Alabama to beat Duke. I can guarantee you right now, no one is picking Alabama to beat Duke. And this is the reason why Nate Oates schedules the way he does. This is the reason why he plays the style the way that he does, because it's a low variance style where if you get your shots up efficiently, the probability of you losing a game is low. And with the way that Duke defended last night against Arizona, where they were bringing three guys into the paint, they were really leaving the wings open for Arizona. If Alabama can drive to the paint with purpose, with the knowledge and forethought to pass out to the wings, the 3-point shot's going to be open for Alabama. Now it's whether or not they can replicate somewhat similar performances like they did versus BYU. I'm again not expecting them to shoot 25 of 51 from three, but if you can make, I don't know, 15 threes, I think Alabama has a really good shot in this game. It's just whether or not you answer the challenge that's presented in front of you, and I think this team will.
felt like last night's team played like they were disrespected, and they knew they've been disrespected. There was a lot of talk about BYU coming out victorious last night. I told y'all before the game that some of that talk to me reminded of how people were picking College of Charleston over us in the first round last year. And people talking about how it's an easy path for Duke to get to the Final Four. And even with last night's performance, I agree with you. Many people will pick Duke to win because Duke did have a good performance last night. And the logic behind it is going to be Alabama's not going to make 25 three-pointers again. Charles Barkley, in his astute analysis, after saying, we should be up more than 11 at halftime, going 12 to 24 in the first half and three. And Alabama won't do that in the second half. He's right. We went 13 of 27. So I think this team is very locked in. I think there is a huge chip on their shoulder, but I also think they are much more connected than I feel like I've seen them at any point this season. I think going from Cleveland to Newark was a great decision, keeping all the guys together. Mark Sears talked about it as far as playing for your brothers, and it just looked like a very connected team last night and a team that is taking things seriously and paying attention to detail. You have to play like that with the defensive game plan that we had, trying to run BYU off the three-point line early and stay committed to that with how successful BYU was early at the rim, and just took advantage of the opportunities, had the ball hot last night. I was concerned at times going into last night's game that ball might get a little stagnant, but it was moving. And guys took the right shots. I give Mohamed Diabate a lot of credit. He had opportunities last night to shoot a three-pointer at times. And he's 4 of 4 in the tournament right now from three. Didn't put up a three-point attempt at all, kept the ball hot, and got it in our shooters' hands to knock down the shots. And I do think last night's performance is going to have an impact on Saturday. Not that, it's just we're going to be draining threes again. I think we will make our three-point shots, but a lot of the shots we made last night were from deep too. And so the spacing on the floor and the ground that Duke's going to have to cover, and, what they're going to come into the game of, you can't give these guys space. It's going to open up driving lanes, and whether those are kickouts for threes or more lobs for Grant or Cliff, there's the opportunity, as good of a team Duke is to have them playing on roller skates on defense tomorrow night.
Yeah, and watching last night's game, the one thing that I am concerned about would be rebounding. We didn't necessarily, don't get me wrong, we did decent. We out-rebounded them by 1. We had 37 rebounds on the night, but we're going to have to rebound better than that if we want to beat Duke. Duke is really good at crashing the glass. If anybody that watched that Duke Arizona game last night, that was one of the big reasons why Duke was able to pull away, was they were able to just maintain control of the ball even if they missed a shot. So that's one of my concerns. I know that Duke pretty much outperforms Alabama in most statistical categories, but as I was talking to y'all before the podcast, we have to remember what type of schedules these two teams have played. Alabama have played a really, really tough non-conference schedule. They had a really tough SEC schedule, and there's a reason on KenPom they have the number 1 toughest schedule. Duke, on the other hand, has a 57. So that's not to discount Duke. I still think Duke it's either them or Florida as the best team in the country, and there's a reason for that. Cooper Flagg is the best player in the country. But I do think that this is a beatable team. I think that they definitely have some weapons that can take care of Alabama, but they also have some pretty big holes that Alabama can take advantage of too. Just overall, I think if we limit our turnovers and we don't give up opportunities, we don't give up rebounds on the offensive end, I think we're going to be fine. And, we were also talking about beforehand, in last night's game, they primarily played 5 players. Their starting 5 were the players that they had for most of the game. I think we have better depth. Our length is pretty much the same as theirs, so they don't really have a big advantage there. It's just a matter of effort, and the shots need to keep falling like they did last night. If those two things happen, I think Alabama could win tomorrow night. But it is just a matter of those two things happening.
Well, there's a lot of talk and it's very frequently on Alabama as far as like shot regression or progression in certain instances where a lot of the conversation, like you said, will be around whether or not Alabama can replicate a 25-51 performance. And I think the general consensus will be that there's going to be shot regression there. Well, what's not being talked about is the fact that Duke has shot over 60% from the field the entire tournament so far, right? I'm pretty sure they got close to 65% from the field versus Arizona. Like, yes, Alabama is probably due for a regression within like how their 3-point percentage within last night's game. But prior to that, Alabama wasn't very effective shooting 3-point shots in the first two rounds. So there should also be a conversation where I think Alabama's a better defense than Arizona. I think Alabama's a better offense than Arizona. Like I don't believe that Duke is going to shoot 60% from the field. And if they do shoot 60% from the field, great. They deserve to be in the Final Four. But I think that Alabama is going to present some problems for them with their length, and I also think with their experience. Like I said to you guys going into the tournament when I was picking my bracket, Duke relies on 4 freshmen. 4 of their 6 top scorers are freshmen. Alabama's depth and Alabama's experience, they're starting 4 fifth-year guys, like, or 4 seniors, not necessarily 4 fifth-year guys. Like, I think that's a critical piece to the success of this game for Alabama because if they're able to kind of do similarly to what San Diego State did to Alabama with that Brandon Miller team, really assert their physicality, really, put the pressure on Alabama to make shots. That's what San Diego State did so effectively. If Alabama is able to do that to Duke, I think Alabama has a really solid chance of winning this game solely because we have seen multiple things thrown at us this year and throughout these guys' entire tenure.
I'm glad you brought up San Diego State because that was the next point I was going to make. You saw my head moving up and down because I think that this game really does line up with that one when it comes to the experience margin. I think obviously this team's a lot. I think this team is better than that Alabama team was, but I think we're also better than San Diego State was. And so that was going to be the question I posed. I've already heard you, Christian, just now, but Charles, how do you think this game? Do you think there's a comparison to be made between these two games?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a comparison to be made, and that's why after that loss to San Diego State, we got a lot older in the portal, and we've continued to get a lot older. And so when I think about what Joey, were talking about as far as strength of schedule, us being number 1 and Duke being 57. And Duke has played tough competition in the non-conference. They did go out and play Kentucky and Auburn and Kansas, even though the ACC has been relatively weak this year. Where I think that really benefits us is, getting to the last media timeout of the game, and it's a close game. And you've had Duke, who does have 4 freshmen, Cooper Flagg and Con Knipple averaged about 30 minutes a game. Tyrese Proctor's right there at about 30 minutes a game. So you've got a team that's full of freshmen that has been in close games against Kentucky and against Auburn, against Kansas, and had some instances in the ACC tournament, but definitely has not had as many of those high pressure situations throughout the year that our team has had to go through. And not just through this year, but the 5th-year seniors that we have on this team, what they've had to go through in their careers. So you have that, and then you have our pace of play, which we've played fast all year. We just showed in our game against St. Mary's that if a team wants to slow it down, we can still be successful doing that too, and against a team that's really good on the defensive side. Duke is a team that has also played very slow this year. Christian, I think you told me it was about 65, on average 65 possessions per game. Just coming off a game where they played Arizona, 71 possessions, so 6 more than what they typically play. And as y'all mentioned, all 5 of their starters, 4 of them played over 30 minutes. And I think it was Malawak only played 24 minutes. And you look at our team and the guy who got the most get to this point in the season, I know everybody's played a lot of basketball. Everybody's tired. Everybody's beat up. if we can get the pace to where we want it to be, if Duke wants to run with us, I think that's going to have a huge benefit for us, not only in just playing the style of play that we want to, but I think we can get into their legs. It's Duke. They've still got good players on the bench. Mason Gillis came from Purdue and made a Final Four run with Purdue last year. Isaiah Evans was a guy who had a lot of success against Auburn. Gunba has been great for them in the NCAA tournament. I know Malik Brown's had some injury issues, but he's still a really good player. So it's not like their bench is obviously just depleted and they don't have players there. They still got guys there, but if this is a game that we hope it is and expect it is, as far as a tight game that you get to the final media timeout and you got Cooper Flagg with 33, 35 minutes played and Tyrese Proctor and Knipple, those same guys, they're playing over the minutes that they've averaged all year. They're in a tight situation that they haven't had to be in a lot of times throughout the year. And they're playing at a pace that they haven't had to play at all year. Got to think that benefits us as you get down the stretch.
So I apologize. I realized that my microphone was plugged into my PC and not my computer. So I apologize if the audio was bad the first part of the podcast. But no, you're right. Duke has played one team that is in like the top 20 of pace, and it was Illinois. Illinois, if you guys remember, I think they ended up losing by like 40 something versus that Duke team. Well, Illinois shot 12 or 2 of 26 from three, highly inefficient. They also had just under 1 point per possession, despite only shooting 2 of 26 from three. On top of that, they were dealing with a lot of injuries. And my point being is Illinois is a team that averages 71 possessions a game. Alabama is up at 75 possessions a game. Duke, their team performance defensively, as far as like possession length, is 364th in the country defensively. Teams are averaging 19 seconds per possession. Alabama's going to be shooting the ball within 10 seconds, or at least that's the hope. Within 10 seconds of getting the ball, that's the hope. So for Duke, they're going to have to figure out how to get back defensively quickly because Alabama is going to try to break what they have been doing defensively. And I think that that's where the advantage is going to be for Alabama because I saw a lot of things that if I was a Duke fan concerned me last night defensively against Arizona, that Alabama will do better than Arizona did, in my opinion. But going back to the BYU game, like I I don't know where that came from, but like I wouldn't say that that's what I expected from this Alabama team. I don't think expecting to shoot 20, make 25 threes would be the expectation, but like that's the type of performance that I was kind of hoping that this team looked like all season. There will be a lot of talk about how we gave up 50 points in the paint. I think that was intentional. I think we intentionally gave them the points in the paint, knowing that if we run them off the 3-point line, they can't beat us. And I almost think that that's the type of strategy that Alabama should have versus Duke.
I agree. As good as Cooper Flagg is, and Cooper Flagg is good enough to beat us by himself, but I really think the game plan needs to be to make Cooper Flagg beat us. It's in games that we've really struggled this year, and I've said this several times, it's that third, fourth guy, leading point scorer that has come out and had a 20 plus point performance against us. So I think guys for Duke, like Knipple's probably going to reach double figures. Tyrese Proctor is going to reach double figures. It's, Malawak's going to get some offensive rebounds and some putbacks, but making sure a guy like Sion James doesn't get hot again from the 3-point line. Or if it's Isaiah Evans does come off the bench and he's hot from the 3-point line, or Mason Gillis has another great game. We beat Auburn with Janai Broome scoring 34 points. If Cooper Flagg goes out and puts another 30 points on us, I think that's fine as long as you don't let, Knipple go for 20 like he did last night, or you don't let Sion James go for 16, or you let Isaiah Evans go in for 18. So being connected, kind of how we were last night. Like we ran them off the 3-point line, but we also weren't over helping. So again, I think Cooper Flagg is a player that could beat us by himself, but I'd rather take that chance knowing that we're going to throw Grant Nelson at him, and we're going to throw Jaron Stevenson at him, and we're going to throw Mohamed Diabate at him, and we're going to throw Darian Reed at him. Like we've got plenty of bodies to throw at Cooper Flagg and hopefully wear him down throughout the game. And not just wear him down on the offensive side, but need to try to wear him down on the defensive side and attack him as well.
Yeah, I really think that Mohamed Diabate is going to be big in this game. I really think that that's going to be the guy that he's obviously not going to start the game, right? Like Grant's going to start the game, and I think Grant's probably going to start on Cooper. But I think that Mo's physicality, if he can play within himself and not pick up fouls, like that's going to be crucial. I will say right now, for any Alabama fan listening to this, the refs are not going to be on Alabama's side. It is not going to happen.
No, it will be a Duke home game. You'll have your Duke sidewalk alumni there. You'll have your Yankees fans there. You'll have your Lakers fans there.
Some Alabama football fans.
Some Alabama football fans. They go for the Cowboys too, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll have a lot of those fans there. We'll still have our section as well too. But I expect this to be a Duke home game. And so it's going to be important that you start off well. Duke will make a run at some point because every game we play, each team has some type of run. But you have to go into that knowing that. And you have to be able to go into it and adjust to when the whistle changes too, like it did last night, where the officials were not going to let you guard with your hands anymore. You either had to be straight up and have body contact or just not be on them like how BYU was not on us last night. The officiating changed. We started to change with it a little bit, probably not as quickly as we should have, but got through it, got through that adversity, and obviously was able to continue to play and play successfully last night. But I think this team is, again, I'll say it again. I thought last night's team was the most locked in I've seen them all year. And so I think even with the crowd, even with the officiating, however things go, that this is a team that's going to be able to get through that adversity and keep playing.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, at one point, because I kept track of it, at one point, BYU got 3 fouls early in the first half to end the game. To end the game. So I think that was within like the first 2 or 3 minutes of the game or second half where BYU got 3 fouls. One of them I think was a flagrant or a tech. To end the game, fouls were 14-4 in favor of BYU. Alabama got called for 14 fouls to BYU's 4 to end the game. And I know that was also a product of Alabama just shooting a bunch of threes and not attacking the paint. But a lot of the fouls that we were called were just about a lot of hand fouls that weren't being called in the first half. Yeah, just know that and this isn't an excuse because officiating doesn't determine outcomes of games. As far as I'm not blaming officials for winning or losing a game because you should be able to play through that, and Alabama played through it last night. But when a player of the year is coming into again in a game, generally they're going to get a little bit more lenient whistle than the other team, and that's just the nature of the beast. We saw it with Zach Edey last year. Janai Broome's gotten it at times this season, and I assume Cooper Flagg has. I haven't watched much of Duke this year. Other than that, I'm just excited for the direction of this program and where we are. To get to back-to-back Elite Eights with the potential to get to back-to-back Final Fours. One, back-to-back Elite Eights is something that's never been done before. Two, we only went to the Final Four for the first time ever last year, and to be able to have a chance to get back to it shows you just how impactful of a coach Nate Oates is, especially with the roster turnover that we had. be able to kind of reload what we're doing. Additionally, I think Nate Oates broke the record for winningest coach in tournament history at Alabama. There's been some talk or discussion about, vacated wins and different things like that. I'm going based off of what's recognized by the university and what's recognized by the NCAA. Um, I know games do happen that are vacated, but again, just going off that recognition, I think he has a chance to break the record of the non-vacated wins. What is it if he wins tomorrow?
I think he'd tie it if we
Okay.
win.
Um,
And honestly, it shouldn't matter. Like
no.
just enjoy it. Wimp had a great run, and Nate Oates honors Wimp, as we know, with his style as far as attire on the coaching staff. Something that shouldn't be fought about. I understand you have Wimp supporters, you have Nate Oates supporters. Everybody needs to come together, just be Alabama basketball supporters. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah,
It's
and
it's also it's not it's also not like he's. I mean, even if you recognize it that way, it's not like he's not going to break it within like next season. So like, or it's like, all right,
barring
let's
something crazy happening, yeah.
yeah, barring a disaster.
Yeah. Um, all in all, just an incredible run. And I think, and we talk about it, this is Nate Oates' best coaching job. The fact that he's been able to bring this team together, it's the second best shooting team that Nate Oates has ever had at just over 35% from three. And you're missing your best shooter in Latrell Wrightsell that you've lost for the majority of the season, right? I think Aiden Holloway stepped up last night. I think you need for the game tomorrow, you need him to play like he did last night. You need Chris Youngblood to be locked in like he was last night offensively. Um, and it wouldn't help if Mark Sears hits 11 threes tomorrow night. It's just my
Also,
opinion.
credit to you, Christian. You called it on Twitter, saying that this is a Mark Sears game. That's exactly what happened.
It
Played out to his
was. It
favor.
was a it
Yeah.
was a Mark Sears game. That a BYU played a style that favors Mark Sears. Duke does not play a style that favors Mark Sears. I will tell you that right now.
Yeah.
Um, we need LeBaron Filan to play well and not turn the ball over in the paint. I think that's the most critical thing offensively that we need because that he has struggled with that at many times in this tournament.
I want to ask y'all too, in a little bit of a side conversation. As much of a heater we were on from the 3-point line, Grant Nelson is on a heater as far as having just one highlight dunk, it seems like, since at least middle of February. So if that doesn't happen in the first half, or we get late in the game and we need a big bucket, that gives me some comfort that he hasn't hit his quota yet, and it's got to be coming at some point.
Yeah, I still am not 100% sure Grant's 100% healthy. Um, but the fact that he's been able to play through kind of some of his stuff and hasn't lost a lot of his explosiveness. Last year, I think he lost a little bit, right? Um, I would love for him to dunk over Cooper Flag. That would be ideal.
Well, I think tomorrow, what we have seen in the first two games of the NCAA tournament with Grant and Cliff, that could be reintroduced with hopefully the spacing that we have on offense, because you can't just guard us at the 3-point line. You've got to basically guard us at the logo. So if we can get into the paint and get Malawak to step up, and yeah, there will be opportunities to kick out, but hopefully there's additional opportunities to hit Grant or Aiden or Cliff for an easy two, and quiet the Duke faithful at times.
Absolutely. I have a couple of questions. I've sent out a tweet about any questions. So, SRV SR4IV on Twitter asks, "What's the defensive scheme with the size discrepancy at the guard position?" I mean, it's not like we haven't seen big guards all season. Florida would probably. So this is what I'll say. Florida would probably be the closest team to Duke that I would comp them to, but Duke's bigs are not as athletic as Florida's bigs. Cooper Flag, yes, but Malawak, there's another guy I'm forgetting, starts with an M. Um, he fouled out last night.
Goomba.
Goomba. Yeah. He's another big for them. Like they're they're not as athletic as like Condon, and they're also I don't think that they're as good as passers. I could be wrong. I could be completely off base here, and I could be getting hot take to no end. Um, I think for Alabama, the defensive scheme needs to be play them off the 3-point line. Don't let them shoot threes. And if you can prevent that means pressuring the ball at above the 3-point line, like we've done versus Kentucky, like we did versus BYU. Like it's okay to give up twos if you're going to go run down and get a three at the other end, right? And that's kind of my thought process is don't let these guys just tee off from three.
Yeah, as far as the size of the guards, like BYU was a team that had size at guards last night. I don't think they played anybody that was smaller than 6'4" or 6'6". And I know Duke is a team that there's the smallest guy on the roster is a 5'8" walk-on, basically, and everybody else is 6'6" and above. But we just saw that last night. And then thinking about other teams like a Florida or even like an Auburn, like Todd Pettiford's 6'1" and Denver Jones is 6'4". But outside of that, it's 6'6", 6'7", and then you start getting in their bigs at 6'9", 6'10", 6'11". So defensively, I agree. It's run them off the 3-point line. It's not overhelp and giving them, easy looks or trying to limit the easy looks. If you're giving them easy looks at the rim, because you do have somebody that steps up or they just, bad switch or something like that, that's obviously a lot better. And you want to clean that up as quickly as possible, but that's going to be a lot better than just giving them open looks from the 3-point line.
Um, Someone said when are the threes going to drop? Man, if last night that wasn't the threes
About
dropping, then
about 14 hours ago.
yeah. Um, McKinley Tubbs, he says, "What's the message for the team? If you're Oates, what's your message to the team heading into the game?" My message is don't let the moment be too big for you. You've proven all season that you can beat these teams. You've played against them all season. The back half of the schedule, you played against the number 4 team in the country or number 4 team in Kim Pom twice. You played against I guess Auburn was the number 2 or 3 team in the country. You played against them twice. You played against Kentucky, who's a top 15 team. You played them 3 times in the final stretch of the season. Like you've been here, you've done this before. You made the Final Four last year. A lot of the guys on Grant Nelson, Mark Sears, Mohamed Diabate, Jaron Stevenson, these guys have been in this position before against a team that people said that they could not beat, right? Like Herb Jones said, there's no pressure when you're having fun. Go out and have fun. Go out and try to prove to the nation that you're the team that they thought you were at the beginning of the season and prove why you deserve to be in the Final Four. Because at the end of the day, I think this team is a Final Four national championship contender, and you don't get easy pass to get to there.
Yeah.
So why not go to the best team in the country right now?
Yeah, I think it's got to be something along the lines of, look, uh, we know they're a blue blood, but we're blue collar. So go be blue collar. Go be the toughest, hardest playing team, max effort. Um, get locked in. We've been through the battles, we've been through the wars, and it's not just, this season. You guys, as far as your careers, have been through these battles, been through these wars, and they haven't. There's yeah, they're blue blood, but we've taken it to the blue bloods and we've established ourselves as the new blood.
I think players going to have heard a lot of noise heading into this game because they have a whole 24 hours today and they have a half a day tomorrow to hear all the talking heads and everybody talk about this game. What ultimately matters is outside of the locker room, it doesn't matter who believes in that team or doesn't believe in that team. No offense to us three, it doesn't matter if we believe in them or not. It doesn't matter if the guys that are on ESPN or Charles Barkley or any of them on CBS, it doesn't matter if they believe in them or not. The only thing that matters is if they believe in themselves. That's the only thing that matters. Are they confident? Do they have the confidence? Do they have the ability to go out there and do it? and they do. So you stole what I was going to say again, Christian. I was going to use the old Herb Jones adage. There really isn't, but it's become immortal for a reason because it's very true. There isn't any pressure when you're having fun. And I think if the guys go out there, they execute the game plan, they take the same approach that they did to BYU. It doesn't matter what anybody says. We're going to go out there and we're going to beat you. We're going to beat you. I think they can. I think tomorrow night I'll be booking a plane to San Antonio. So I think that's the message he needs to get across. And I think it's a message they've really had this whole tournament. Because from the very beginning, there were people that didn't think that they would win the first round. There were a lot of people that thought they were going to lose to St. Mary's. There were people that thought they were going to lose to BYU. There are certainly a lot of people that think they're going to lose to Duke. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. It just matters if you can play your best game. And even if you lose at the end of the day, if you lost but you played your best game, who cares? You did your best, and you can walk out of there saying we made it to back-to-back Elite Eights.
And if I'm Nate Oates, that's a really good point. Look, we're not going to lose the game because we didn't play hard. Yeah. We're not going to lose the game because we weren't the toughest team out there. If they go out and shoot 65% from three, they go out and shoot 60% from the floor, so be it. Congrats to them. Slap on the back. They deserve to win. But
well, that's also what he said before the Auburn game. He said, it doesn't matter if we win or lose this game. We're going to be the hardest playing team out there on that court today. And that's exactly what they did. And that's a huge contributing factor as to why they won that game, especially in overtime. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to go off of that.
You're fine. Go ahead. Go ahead, Charles.
Well, yeah, y'all mentioned Herb Jones and all that, and I had a side comment. How cool was it to see Noah Clowney and Alex Reese right behind the bench last night, supporting the guys, and hoping and expecting that we'll have more NBA players to do the same in the future. Obviously, they're still within their season right now, but I just thought that was cool to see both those guys getting to take it in and watch the team last night.
And I'll mention this because some people had some problems with JQ at times, and myself included. But the fact that he has, at least this season, come back, supported the team, tried to be a part of the program that he spent 3 years with, it really does make me happy to see, because he's a Bama guy. He bleeds crimson through and through. And the fact that Nate Oates has let bygones be bygones with how he left. The fact that, JQ was able to narrate the whatever hype video that came through, like that's just pleasing to me to see that, one, Nate Oates has an ability to forgive and forget based off of, past transgressions or things like that. And then two, the fact that guys still want to be around the program regardless of, what happened, right? It's very pleasing to see, at least from my perspective. One more question from Lee Townsend. If Darian Reed was playing all season, do you think he'd be starting lineup and have the Cooper Flag assignment? I want to see Reed on him. That'd be a fun matchup. I don't think you want to see Darian Reed on Cooper Flag, in my opinion.
We've got other guys that can handle Cooper Flag.
I'm not saying Darian Reed.
We got other guys with more experience that can guard Cooper Flag.
I would like to see Darian Reed on Tyrese Proctor, or Darian Reed on Con Knippel. Some of the. I'm not saying Cooper Flag isn't mobile, because he's basically a point forward for them. That's how he was playing versus Arizona. But I would rather see some guys that play a little bit more physical to be on Cooper Flag, to maybe potentially try to wear him down a little bit, because the guy still is a freshman, right? Like, he hasn't seen the same type of size that, I'm not saying that we have, because I think that they played against Clemson, right? Clemson is probably bigger than us. Their bigs are a lot bigger than us. But if you can wear him down, I think Alabama's got a good shot, as long as the other guys don't get hot. And I think that's the key, is not letting other guys get hot.
I think just looking at some of the rebounding numbers for Duke, Cooper Flag leads them with 7.5 rebounds. Malawak's behind him at 6, and then Sion James averages about 4 rebounds a game, and then it's kind of a mix of guys that average 3 to 2 rebounds a game. I don't know if Duke's really going to be a team especially not like St. Mary's, that sends a lot of guys to offensive rebound because they probably have the expectation that we're going to make shots. Now, that should not remove the pressure from our guys or being locked in that I still would like to see 4 or 5 guys rebounding on the defensive side. But that actually gives me some confidence that we can have an ability to attack them on the boards on the defensive side. And two, knowing that if it is a game that they try to play slow, that we should be sending guys to offensive rebound and finding opportunities to get second chance points.
Their offensive rebound percentage is about the same exact as ours. They're 49th in the country. We're 54th. They're 34.3%. We're 34.1%. So again, just outwork them on the boards, limit them to one shot. The issue is when they get multiple shots.
Yep.
Other than that, we'll have a podcast next week, regardless of result. We also will have a space following the game tomorrow night. It'll be a late one because it'll be 9 p.m. when the game tips off. But I will do a space tomorrow night for the good of the people. And it'll be a positive one because I believe Alabama is going to win and get back to the Final Four.
Might be a few minutes late because I'm going to be booking a flight if we win, or I'll be right on time if we lose. So
yeah. Either Joey's spending a lot of money or is not spending a lot of money tomorrow night is what I've been told.
My wallet's either going to be very happy or very disappointed.
Yes.
Hopefully it'll be furious at me.
Yes. But we will have a post game space tomorrow night. We will have a podcast coming out next week, regardless of result. But it's going to be a good result. So we'll have 3 podcasts out next week because we're winning the national championship. So that is all I got for you guys. Be sure if you're in town, go to the baseball game series this weekend against Oklahoma. They're a top 10 team. Alabama has a chance to get off to a really good start in SEC play. So check them out if you haven't. Go to Heat Pizza if you're watching the game in Tuscaloosa tomorrow night. They have been having watch party there. Also, J&J is doing a 20% off flash sale in celebration of making the Elite Eight. So you can use that 20% off online or in store if you want to. Other than that, be sure to like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and cheer us on as we make the Final Four starting tomorrow. All right. Talk again soon and roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.